This is Metrosource Minis, the official podcast of Metrosource Magazine and home of short-form interviews with your favorite personalities from the LGBTQ world and beyond. Quick, fun, and informative. It's Metrosource on the go. Out and proud since 1990. Well, hello. This is Metrosource Minis. I'm your host, lead writer for Metrosource Magazine, Alexander Rodriguez. And we are on the verge of the holidays and the new year, and we're going to be stuck at home. So what about my cocktails? Well, today I'm chatting with the king of cocktails, Mr. Paul Zahn. Paul Zahn is an on-air host, journalist, and entertaining expert. He has developed and marketed beverage brands with everyone from Fergie to 50 Cent to Pitbull. He has also worked on iconic spirit brands like Absolut Vodka, Malibu Rum, Disaronno, and Midori. And as an on-air host, he has hosted and produced for Time Warner Cable for 2 years. He covered premieres, press junkets, and events for the media conglomerate. He was also a contributor to OK TV Celebrity Page TV as part of their entertaining team. And in 2014, he was part of the Yahoo Coca Cola Pre Show at the American Music Awards, co-hosting the live show with celebrities like Lance Bass, Kandi, Burruss, and Jordin Sparks, as produced by Dick Clark Productions. And when you have time, ask him about his interview with Jeremy Piven. He currently writes for The Daily Dish and The Feast at BravoTV.com as their West Coast reporter, and he contributes to Gotham Magazine, LA Confidential Magazine, and Vegas Magazine. His interview with Kourtney Kardashian for LA Confidential Magazine was one of their most visited stories on the site in 2016. His press appearances have included television shows across the nation, as well as appeared in many, many magazines, including our very own holiday issue of Metrosource Magazine. Please welcome Mr. Paul Zahn.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting festive. I'm getting ready for these holidays. I'm getting ready for New Year's Eve. I'm getting ready for 2021. So I'm going to be ready. You know what I mean?
Girl, I don't even know what day it is or what time it is, so I just know the holidays are approaching, and I mean, we're going to talk about how we can celebrate at home, but I want to know, you work with a lot of major alcohol brands. What is going on with alcohol sales during COVID, and how is it affecting the marketing of these big brands?
So obviously, liquor sales are booming because people are spending more time at home. They're going to the liquor stores, grocery stores, CVS, wherever to buy more wine, more liquor. So those sales are up. However, the on-premise world, like bars, nightclubs, restaurants, that's completely sort of been washed away, even with cocktails to go. So people are really enjoying cocktails, enjoying wine, enjoying luscious libations at home. So that's sort of what's happening with that. In doing that, a lot of brands have turned to doing virtual events and virtual trainings and stuff like that. So I just recently did an event where we did with Hormel. We had Taylor Dane, we had Boys to Men, we had a cocktail tutorial. It was themed around Friendsgiving. So Hormel brought in some major chefs to teach how to do side dishes. We had Mia from Bar Rescue teach us how to do a cocktail. So it's really about still engaging with everybody in a fun and spirited way, but at home. So these four walls have seen a lot of booze go down in the past 10 months.
Well, my four walls have seen a lot of booze go down, but nothing as quite as luxurious or like celebrity fueled as that. It's just me and Netflix.
Hey, we do what we can do this year. That's what I say about 2020. It's like you get by how you get by, whether it's Netflix chill and beer or just Netflix chill and an edible. Hey, I've had all of those nights.
I love that slogan, 2020, get by.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, entertainment, though, has been a big part of your life. You performed in off-Broadway. You also performed with Broadway Bears for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
What about working in the theater world kind of has helped you develop your red carpet and celebrity interaction skills? What aspects from theater really aid you in that?
Yes. So I spent so much of my childhood in my 20s as a performer, doing commercials off Broadway, doing stuff like that. So the first rule when you're improvising is to always say yes and. So that really prepared me to go do live TV, introduce celebrities live, to do these segments that we're doing at home, because you never know what question you're going to get from a journalist. Say if you're doing KTLA Morning News, they could throw you a curveball and you have to be ready. So those years of improv classes, those years of doing musical theater, doing acting and all that really has prepared me to just be a roll with the punches type of guy when it comes to doing on-air segments or stuff like that, or interviewing celebrities. As you know, it can go a little left at times.
It can go so many different ways and you just never know. Yeah. Okay, so but all of those naked bodies in Broadway Bears with the hottest actors of the stage, Are there any shenanigans backstage?
There are definitely shenanigans backstage. So after there were two shows. So there was an earlier show and then there was a later show. So in between two shows, Jerry Mitchell, who's the choreographer, would have everybody gather around and there would be a ceremonial shot. So once the booze enters after the first show and the second show, sometimes the girls' PTs don't stay on. People get a little loose, yours truly included. So there might be some makeout sessions. I went up to Cyndi Lauper and was like trying to give her a hug, but I was covered in glitter and she was like, "Don't touch me, but you look cute." So, you know, it's just chaos. And it was at Roseland Ballroom then, which is now turned into, you know, apartment buildings in New York City, much like every other nightclub and situation in New York. So there was a ton of energy in the room, a ton of energy in between shows. And it was such a great creative energy. And it was all to raise money for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, which is one of my favorite charities.
So you're saying people should check out the second show of the day then?
I say do both. It's charity. You're doing charity work, people. So go to both and do a shot of tequila, you know, at a bar next door and then go to the second show. Why not?
Yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. You're also an entertainment news reporter for Bravo TV. Yeah. With everyone under lockdown, how do you find celebrity news and goings on during this time? I mean, what's trending celebrity-wise during COVID?
Well, I recently, again, publications, much like bars and restaurants, are really having to pivot. So like last week, I worked with LA Confidential magazine and I interviewed Kaylee Cuoco. So we did an IG Live where, you know, fans of Kaylee's and fans of the magazine could jump on and ask questions. For those of you who don't know, Kaylee has a really great HBO Max show right now called The Flight Attendant, which everybody has to check out. She's so great in it and she executive produced it. So we just hopped on that IG Live. I made a little Lillet spritz and we sipped a drink and Kaylee gave me all the tea on what it was like producing this show, you know, shooting during COVID, stopping to shoot and then having to start over shooting, traveling the world during 2020. So, you know, publications are really shifting and pivoting during this time too, the way that we're meeting celebrities and the way that we're chatting. Alex, you know, you're the king of Zoom, you're the queen of Zoom, you're the queen of Skype, the king of Skype, whatever. You know, it's just you roll with the punches, you get the little tidbit, and you move on.
You know, I love Kaylee, and The Flight Attendant is it's everybody's favorite new show. I just haven't forgiven her yet for ruining Charmed.
Ruining Charmed? Wait,
she was in the last season of Charmed. She was in the last season of Charmed. Anyway, but it's fine. So on a serious note, you know, representation with the LGBTQ community in terms of hosting has gotten so good on all these different networks. You know, we have everywhere from Ross Matthews to people on E! Entertainment News and on the morning show. What has been your experience? Have you ever experienced homophobia? Because when you first hit the scene, it wasn't quite as acceptable or even just out there as it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting ride. I mean, I've been in the show business world now for, you know, close to 20 years. So things have really changed and shifted. As a host, you know, I've had some talent managers that were sort of like, oh, you know, can you butch it up for this audition for a hosting gig? Or can you, you know, like be a little bit more flamboyant for this? They're looking for that. So a challenge for me is that I'm just me and this is who I am and this is who I present. So I can read a teleprompter, I can write copy, I can do everything a host can do, I can produce. So people asking me to sort of shift or change or do something, it typically doesn't work well for me because then I feel like it's forced. So I'm sure I've missed out on jobs and stuff like that. But what's so important to me is being true to myself and just being my joyful self. And I think it has changed and there is a lot of representation on television now that's so great. So I think things are going to be changing even more as like we go into next year and everything like that. So yeah.
Well, and being true to yourself, we talked about this in the magazine article. We talked about body image. You know, during COVID, we're all kind of gaining our COVID quarantine car pounds, but you're continually still on camera. You're appearing on morning shows and all types of shows, and you're doing these celebrity tastings. So body image is still very, you know, part of your job, so to speak. And we know coming from the LGBTQ community, we have our own body issues and body pressures going on. Even though there's this kind of message of body positivity, at the end of the day, I still don't think we're quite there. How have you dealt with that kind of playing with body image, being a gay man, being on camera all the time, but also being stuck at home next to the refrigerator.
Well, yeah, next to my refrigerator. Well, for me, things have changed a lot because when I was in my 20s, I was doing, shows like Broadway Bears. I was in the Donkey Show, which was an off-Broadway show that we were literally like a pair of panties. And I worked for To Exist as a model. So there was so much more pressure on me in my 20s to stay on top of, how I looked with barely any clothes on. But now that I'm not in my 20s, and my last agent was like, you don't need to worry about your body anymore because you're not going to be disrobing to say host the American Music Awards pre-show with Kandi Burruss. So I do think that there's a lot of pressure for the way that people look, whether you're on camera or just a gay man. So during quarantine and during 2020, my whole thought is like, you do what you can do. If you gain a few pounds because you're comfort eating a little because we're trapped in our homes, give yourself a break. Like, don't beat yourself up. I mean, if you're having, that milkshake at night to make yourself a little comfortable, that's fine. You can only do so much in a time like 2020. So I think it's all about your mental health too. So if you can get outside, I've been doing walks every day to Beverly Hills. It's like a soccer mom walk. I get the arms going, gives me that momentum. And I'm like, I did a 45-minute walk today. I'm like a 70-year-old woman, but I'm like, I did something. I got out, I moved. So I think we have to like cut ourselves a little slack, especially in 2020 with like body image and stuff like that, because we're so limited, especially here in Southern California, where gyms have really opened since March.
Yeah, and that is very true. And of course, we're in SoCal, so every Postmates driver looks like a model, by the way. So if you need to call Postmates just for a little glimpse of beauty, that's also part of it too. Okay, I want to talk about my favorite subject, which is of course cocktails. Okay. Now, I love a well-crafted cocktail with ingredients and garnishes at a bar. But at home, if there's like more than 3 ingredients or all these steps, I'm just not going to do it because I just don't have that patience. Same thing with any kind of food recipe. But what are some of the quickest ways to spruce up a drink at home using our everyday home ingredients that are just very simple that even I can do? Okay,
so first up, coffee cocktails are having a resurgence right now. So I have a really great riff on a classic cocktail, and it involves a little DIY element. So what you do is you take some coffee grinds that you've used, and you take a little bit of like rum that you have laying around, or you can do this with vodka. What you're gonna do is you're gonna infuse the vodka or rum with the coffee grinds to really get the most out of those coffee grinds for like 3 or 4 days. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna make a fun little revolver cocktail. So it's like 2 ounces of that coffee infused bourbon, and then just 1 ounce of a coffee liqueur like Mr. Black, which is a great coffee liqueur. So what you do is you just put those with some ice, you shake it, and then you put it over a nice fresh rock, a nice, ice cube. And it's a great spirit-forward sipper for this time of year, because we are in SoCal, but for those of you watching in sort of colder climates, this is a great like fireplace going, a nice throw around you, a furry throw. It's like the perfect winter cocktail. So it's really about using stuff that you have at home and elevating that. Another great idea is putting cocktails into mason jars and then dropping them at your friends' houses so you can hop on a Zoom together. Because we're all a little fatigued, from doing all these Zooms, but this is a great way that you can do that. So take that cocktail, put it in a mason jar, don't put the ice in, drop it at their door, and then you can chat through with people how to be an at-home mixologist cocktail like that revolver.
I really like that idea. And plus, you could make it as your Christmas card or your Christmas gift. That's a really great idea. Now let's talk about happy hour Zooms. When we first went under lockdown, everybody was doing happy hour Zooms every day. I mean, I was doing it, and then I kind of hit a wall, and I'm just like, it got kind of boring, and then you didn't really know what to say. What are some of your tips for hosting a great Zoom happy hour? And I think starting off by dropping off drinks to friends is great. But during the happy hour Zoom, what kind of tips do you have for being a good host?
Absolutely. So tip 1 is I really like to come up with a theme. So obviously it's the holiday time, so that's a great theme, all things holiday. But over the summer, I was like, how can we get a little bit more creative? And so I came up with like a tropical theme. So what I did was I dropped off some mason jar cocktails with some rum, there's some pineapple juice in there. So I did little tiki cocktails that I dropped at people's houses. And you could also stick with that theme throughout the entire sort of Zoom situation. And the number 2 tip is you want to appoint a host, because you don't want everybody talking over each other. You want to have somebody really leading it. And that host will sort of go through a guided schedule for everything. And my third tip is, why not bring in an expert? We all know some expert in some capacity in our lives, whether it's a meditation coach, whether it's a yoga instructor, a psychic. And if you're doing, say, a tropical theme, you might know somebody that's a hula dancer or somebody that can do, something fun like within the tropical realm. So you can be transported to Hawaii for like a little luau situation. So you bring in that expert to sort of do what their expertise is, to really switch things up. So it's not just everybody sitting talking to each other. And the last tip is come up with a fun game. There are so many fun games that you can do, whether it's Pictionary. I took some paper like this and I literally just taped it up behind me when I was doing one, and we played a fun game of Pictionary. Again, stuff you have laying around the house, super easy and super fun and budget friendly because we're all on a budget.
Yeah. I really, really love those ideas. Of course, like strip trivia is not good on Zoom because they'll shut you down. I learned that the hard way. Oh, girl, yes. Now, now, what is your drink of choice? I mean, you work with so many different alcohol types, but what is your go-to just everyday drink?
I have been recently obsessed with espresso martinis. Again, coffee cocktails, and it's super easy, and it's a good pick-me-up. So it's 1 part espresso, 1 part coffee liqueur, like Mr. Black coffee liqueur, and then 1 part vodka. So you just shake those up, pour it into a martini. After a long day, you might want to drink, but you also want a little bit of that, pick me up with the caffeine. Mm-hmm. So it's a super easy drink. And I think we're making one together at some point soon, Alex. So you stand by.
Fabulous. And I love the coffee element because then, if you want to have it in the morning, it's okay.
Exactly. Breakfast. It's a breakfast situation.
Breakfast of champions. All right, Paul, are you ready to play a little rapid fire?
Yes.
Okay. What cocktail would you serve at Joe Biden's inauguration party?
Oh, I would do like a fun champagne Lillet spritz.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. What would the name of your own vodka be?
It would be Paul's Vodka.
That's not very exciting.
Well, I would never start my own liquor line.
I would buy it, though. I would definitely buy it. Okay. Anyway, best I drank too much story.
Oh God. One of my best I drank too much stories was the time that I got Adele, who was underage, drunk during an Out 100 event in New York City before she was famous. So she just wanted liquor, and I just kept giving her liquor. And then she's like, you drink with me. And then we ended up getting schnockered by the end of the event. And then I realized that her album was 19 and she was 19, which is not legal drinking age in the United States. So, I mean, thankfully I wasn't arrested.
That is a great story. Yeah. What is your worst celebrity red carpet moment?
Probably Jeremy Piven. Jeremy Piven was pretty intolerable when I interviewed him for Entourage, the movie. I made one flub of saying that the movie was going to be released on demand. And he's like, no, it's not. And then he turned to his manager and was like, is this going to be blah, blah, blah? And he's like, no. And then he just walked off mid-interview. So, that was probably one of my least favorite encounters with the celebrity. But yeah.
Well, a lot of people have bad Piven stories. I mean, even even his bank teller, his grocer, his mother, everybody has a bad Piven story.
His Postmates driver, probably.
Yes, it's like, no, God, it's Piven again. Who's your celebrity crush?
My celebrity crush is Ricky Martin.
Oh, he gets better with age. He's like an espresso martini. He's like a little refined with a little kick. Mm-hmm. Yes. A little grown up. Yes. I love Vida Loca. Okay, Paul, tell everybody where you want them to find you and follow you.
Everybody follow me on Instagram at Paul Zahn, Twitter, I am Paul Zahn, and paulzahn.com. And feel free to DM me with questions about cocktails, events, DIY, everything like that. And cheers to 2020 and double cheers to 2021, everyone.
I love that. Thank you so much, Paul. This has been my chat with Paul Zahn, and you can read my in-depth interview with him in the current issue, our holiday issue of Metrosource on newsstands nationally, or go to metrosource.com. And that's our episode. I'm your host, lead writer for Metrosource, Alexander Rodriguez. You can find me on Instagram at Alexander's On Air. Until next time, stay true and do you, boo. That has been another Metrosource Mini. Like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast player, and check out the latest issue of Metrosource Magazine on newsstands or online at metrosource.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram at Metrosource, and on Twitter at Metrosource Mag. Until next time, stay fabulous.